Verstanden.
Amazing. Perfect. Welcome to this newest episode of our webinar, which is entitled Sounds Like Sustainability. This title always opens up room for associations and thought about what sustainability just sounds like, but it isn't. So we always invite wonderful guests to this webinar with whom we talk about sustainability and, of course, about the kind of positive and negative sides of sustainability, the potential of sustainability. And our main focus is communication, which means that we are interested in further exploring and discovering what and who communicate on what is sustainability about, who communicates about sustainability, and what are ways to actually communicate sustainability in a way that we continuously get better understanding of what sustainability is. Long story short, I am very, very excited to have Theresa with me today, and we will start with a short introduction in a second. I just want to mention that this is a series of webinars that can be accessed through the IECA website, the International Environmental Communication Association, IECA, and there are more wonderful conversations all around sustainability. We get started. Hello, Theresa. Thanks for being here today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Maybe you very, very briefly introduce yourself, and then we talk about sounds of sustainability.
Yes, hello.
Briefly, hello.
Hello, thank you, Francisco. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Theresa Novotny. I'm a photographer in Vienna, a sustainable photographer in Vienna, under the name of Knights of RGB. And yes, I've been a photographer for quite some time, also worked as a fine artist. And a year ago, I decided to refocus my production chain as a photographer in a more sustainable way, meaning I try to sort of give back what I sort of take in a way, in a sustainable way. As photography itself, the medium is still bound to matter. So I try to reduce or make more conscious choices about mobility, about data, like data collection and data keeping. And yes, and also about the gear and the materials I use in an everyday process. So this is very short about me and my work.
It is amazing. I'm very, very, very thrilled to have you here, because I think sustainability is one of those things and one of those buzzwords that are all around us. Mm-hmm. But by the same time, so while everyone kind of knows what it is, it's actually really hard to make it more tangible. And therefore, it will be amazing to talk to you a bit about that. But let's start with a sound perspective and kind of open this Zoom space into the real space in which we're in. So my first question would be, what can you hear at the moment? Are there any sounds around you that make you potentially think about sustainability? What might it be?
Yeah, actually there are two sounds. One is our fish tank that is located in the living room, just next door, basically. And why it makes me think about sustainability is because we have no more fish in our fish tank. It's my son's, it was my son's birthday present, which he got for his 5th birthday, I think. And now we have it for almost 5 years. And a year ago, he decided that he doesn't want to eat meat anymore. He decided to become a vegetarian, basically. which came out of him. It was not sort of my doing, but he's very conscious about these things, and I like to support that. So that was a very sustainable choice from my son, which I'm very proud of. And that happened after a not so very sustainable vacation that we took last February. And we returned, and he came out with, I don't want to eat meat anymore. So that, and then we returned from another vacation in summertime when we returned from the sea, and he looked at our fish tank, and he said he doesn't want to have any more fish because he doesn't want the animals to suffer, because by now we know that also fish have feelings, and like they have a nervous system and they perceive pain, and he does not want to, well, hurt the animals he keeps. So this is why it's another sustainable choice. But sustainability is always about finding balance in receiving and giving. So there is still a fish tank without any fish. Because I really enjoyed that it sort of is good for our climate in the living room, because during wintertime, because of the heat, the air gets very dry, and the fish tank was always a very nice way to get a little bit humidity into the air. Sure. And also I very much enjoy the sound of water, because it's an element of flow in my everyday life. And for me, water is a very life-sustaining element, so to speak. So I like to be reminded of that. So it's the balance between a fish tank without fish, only one very, very resistant freshwater shrimp that is cleaning the water in the fish tank.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's the last survivor, so fighting in the fish tank. And yeah. And the second sound is the squeaking of my chair, which I have since I was 9 years old. So that's a sound that sort of stands for sustainability, because I have this, and I've been sitting on that one since a long time now, over 30 years actually. Was a sustainable choice.
Thank you so much. And what I really like is this kind of individual perspective on sustainability and what it actually means.
Yeah.
And I really like the way you bring it down to kind of giving and taking, and that it is about the balance of kind of receiving something but by the same time caring for the resources that are around you and making something out of it. Even if a decision comes along where you feel like, okay, I don't need this anymore, then to repurpose it and still kind of keep it.
Yeah.
That is actually amazing. So my how is like, what was there any kind of disruptive moment, or what was the key moment that you made your decision and say, okay, with my photography, I need to focus, I need to bring in this principle of action, or this organizing principle of sustainability, and really focus on that, or make this a principle of action for me, for my everyday professional life? Was there like a specific moment, or was it more a gradual process of getting there? What influenced this decision?
Well, there were many factors actually that sort of led me to that that rearrangement, so to speak. Because like the care for the environment, or the care like about the world in a global sense, has always been a big part of my life. Working for an NGO for a long time in my 20s, that really influenced me and sustained me in a way that what I did actually made a lot of sense. And I enjoyed that very much. It was a very, meaningful work, basically, as a photo editor to work, and also photographer to work for that NGO. And it just adds really a great deal of meaning. And then, but I didn't continue to work for them. and focused more on art, because I thought, oh, maybe I can save the world with art. And that was sort of a long shot. And then I had a kid, and then you also have to sort of reshift your priorities around to sustain yourself and your child. And so I refocused again on photography as a meaning of taking care of myself and my child. And but it was always something, there was always something missing in that sense. And I wanted, and as I work in many fields of photography, like never felt like I want to focus on only one aspect. Like I didn't feel that I want to be an interior photographer. I didn't feel that I only want to be a portrait photographer. I didn't feel that I want to be only a product photographer, because I love all of these things, and I love to do all of that. And I always feel that sort of it sort of lives off of the other, because there's so much inspiration you get from all of that field. So I didn't feel like I wanted to limit myself. And the one thing that sort of helped me in that was that that sort of refocused myself, is like, but how do I feel about these things? How do I want to do it? And it was not about the what do I do, but how do I want to do it? Mm-hmm. And because I found that there are two ways that you can approach the question of sustainability. You can either focus on the things that are sustainable and show them, like to take pictures of things that are sustainable. Or you do them in a sustainable way. Mm-hmm. And as there are so many things and so many clients that are not sustainable because they're not there yet, I decided that this is what I could do to sort of also expand this way of work and this way of thinking to, or this refocusing towards my clients, and to sort of have them profit off of my work in another way. So this is how this came to be. And then I made this decision to say, well, if I want to do this, I have to sell my car. Mm-hmm. And sort of, how can I do it? Like, in what ways can I work more sustainably? That were the questions of mobility, and sort of focus a little bit more locally, like focus on Vienna. And in Vienna, I can get around very easily with a bike. And there are lovely e-bikes and cargo bikes that at this moment still have space for my kid and my gear, which is great. So I did that, sold my car. Mm-hmm. And sort of also focused on my technical equipment and also my cloud equipment, like what sustains me technically, and really focused on the energy, on like sustainable energy, to source the energy I used from. The chair is giving up. To get them from sustainable sources, and so also the data I sourced. This was actually a big part that I told my clients, well, if you're not choosing a picture, I'm going to erase it. Mm-hmm. Because also data that is not used uses up energy. And this is something that I feel that we forget in our digitalized world more and more, that even though we're working a lot with algorithms and zeros and ones, and everything is digital and feels so ephemeral and fleeting, everything is bound to matter. Be it energy that is used, and the energy also comes from matter. Or is it like the equipment we use? Even a phone everything is bound to matter, and you use so much. You need so much ore and material and metals to have, I don't know, your cell phone. That you forget that it's all something that you use. So I also shifted my focus on erasing what I really don't need. Yeah, that was a really long answer to your question.
No, it was an amazing answer. And there were so many little things in it. And I would like to kind of pick a bit around because I think this is so at the core, like so much at the core of sustainable behavior, or if we like from like a theoretical perspective talk about sustainability as this guiding principle of action or organizing principle of action, like what is it that guides us? And this is exactly what you said, because it's not a matter of like what do we talk about and what do we take photos of and what is the content of our work, but it is also about the ways we do it and the how we want to do it. So I really love that. I would just briefly, before we potentially talk a bit more about those different actions from mobility to the material to the data and the tech aspects. You said like at the beginning you thought a bit about, okay, what is the content? What do I take photos of? And I would just like to ask you, is there anything you experienced or you thought about how sustainability can be visualized? Like if you would have made a decision and saying, okay, I will try to make sustainability or sustainable action or sustainable behavior more visible, what would it be? Or are there any colleagues that you know that try to visualize sustainability and make it more tangible, therefore?
Well, I hope I understood the question. There are many ways. Yeah, there are many ways that you can make it visible, because there are many people who already work on make it visible, be it via witnessing crimes that are being committed, for instance. Because to me, maybe this is one crucial thing. Because to me, sustainability is really very connected on a base level to the climate crisis that we're experiencing right now. And because it stems from that need to start thinking about and communicating about that. So there have been organizations tirelessly invested in the fight against those crimes against natures, fights for or against those crimes. No, fights against those crimes against natures. And as a photographer, I really enjoyed supporting those causes and making or witnessing those actions and those acts of resistance, also, and of political activism, and to also sort of be part of the process of representation that goes with it. For instance, right now we're working on and this is just a tiny thing, but I really like it so much. It's for an organization that deals with the preservation of seeds. In Austria, they're called Aachen, and right now they're working on handing over a petition to a politician, which is a very tiny act, and it's a quite tiny photo opportunity, but there is a message that they want to get across. It's about the protection of seed, and how can you make a more interesting picture that says a lot, but doesn't sort of fall into the pit of, we have a banner and there is our message and this is what we stand for and now you need to go and do it. So, and be on a very, I don't know what the English word is, placative. Do you know?
Well,
like in your face.
Yeah, in your face.
In your face.
Expression, or very kind of simplistic and reductionist way of saying, okay, do this.
Yeah. And now we're working on creating an image that has a bigger outreach and a little bit more elegant approach to handing over all those signatures. And the last time we did it, it worked out really well. We got a wide, like it was published in a lot of newspapers with image, because usually the image, you only have one person shaking hands and handing over a paper to another person, but there is more you can do. And I love this process of creating a language, a visual language for these sorts of courses, because they're viable.
Sorry to jump in here, but what was the image in this last campaign? The image that you then
we handed not only over a paper, but we handed over an object that was representative for all the people that signed, because they were filled with seeds, and it was just a really nice object, and there was the text inside, and it was a more minimalistic and elegant way of representing the signatures and the cause and the need of that organization that was handing over the petition that stand for an even bigger amount of people.
I think it tackles a very important point, because one of the things that we try to debate and further explore in this webinar series is that how can we better communicate not only sustainability itself, but how can we better communicate for sustainability? So how can we communicate in a way that people get more aware, that they can get a more differentiated picture of what sustainability can include and how beautiful it is. It is definitely related to climate change or the climate crisis and certain phenomena. But sustainability, as you said, is not just the same objects that surround us, just in a green version. But it's different. It has so much more potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how like if someone would approach you with the question, okay, how can we better visualize this giving and taking, for example? Like, what would be your, like, the principle of sustainability and what sustainability is? Are there any kind of symbols or any ideas that you have that would represent sustainability? Any, I don't know, objects or some symbols or ornaments or signifiers? I'm just thinking, because I'm so rid of these two hands holding a tiny little sprout, you know? This is so, like, you type in sustainability and you go and Google images and you get all those hands holding this tiny little planty thing. And so what are alternatives?
Oh my God, this is such a big question. I would need a week to think about that. It's okay, very good and very, I mean, what are like a symbols? Yeah, I think maybe I cannot answer that question, but I really would like to sort of like directly, like, this is the image I have.
No,
but maybe the actual answer is, why is there only so few symbols yet for this question? Why are there, like, why? And this is something that I stumble upon quite frequently, the stigmatization of the term, because it always sort of, I feel it's sort of linked into the bad conscience of people. So you don't want to have it too much in their faces. And you want to have it like on a very positive connotational level, those kinds of images and representations, because right now, like, even to say I'm a sustainable photographer, I stumbled upon, like, why would you communicate that? This is going to scare up your clients because they don't know if they have to be sustainable in order to hire you. Will this cost me more if you do that? And all these kinds of stigmatization and bad conscience of people, basically, because they know what we do is not good.
It's really, really interesting that it's exactly, this is the critical point in any kind of sustainability communication. It's the extra cost, because it's still a bit elite. Like, sustainability, or to act sustainable, is something you actually have to like yeah, you have to be able to pay for it, and by the same time this responsibility
Mm.
that is allocated to people in a way that, okay, so be more responsible, and therefore be more sustainable, and therefore be more responsible for what you do.
Mhm.
And there is a certain pressure coming along with it that I perceive as a moral pressure. So you are morally better
Mhm.
person if you take your bike instead of a car. You are
Yeah.
morally evaluated from your kind of surroundings as a better person if you say, okay, I don't eat meat, or I don't eat it regularly.
Mhm.
And the morality that comes along with that, again, is something that is really interesting. And when we come to visualization of sustainability or sustainable action, then I would totally answer your question with yes, we have such a limited number of
Mhm.
symbols for sustainability in a very limited way. If you look around in the kind of random advertisement space, around like this happy person on her bike, or like this random family of dad, mom, and two kids, one of the shoulders on dad's shoulders, and one kind of holding hands with mom, and it's
Mhm.
kind of going, it's and I'm very curious, um and very intrigued to learn what are alternatives, like how can we use other forms of visual stimuli to make people think about sustainability?
Absolutely. As you said, there it's always sort of connected to an element of green and to nature. It's this human nature relationship, where you would maybe locate this this action of taking and giving, and to find the balance in that, and to it's basically it's again this question of balancing out what you take and what you get back. And and out of a more activist context, you have different ways of communicating sustainability. It is more communicating the need to focus on that, and that is also very very specific visual language, how to communicate the need for more sustainability, because there you're usually dependent on pictures that show the downside of living not sustainable, and those are those images that you don't want to see that much.
Mm-hmm.
So in a more positive context, you want to focus on what you want to see in a ideally balanced world, which is healthy, happy families in a healthy, happy environment, in the countryside, in the city. And so you're already developing stereotypes of visual sustainability, like a stereotypical visual language for questions of sustainability. Because you have clean oceans with happy animals, and you have polluted oceans with a lot of plastic. You have happy tech, where everything is green. I don't know what that is at this moment, actually. And you have unhappy tech with kids sitting in tech gravel, tech garbage. And you always have like, and I think it's going to be interesting when it's in the middle, balanced, that it's not so much something that needs to be communicated to the extreme, but as it's integrated into our daily lives, that it's not a question of we need to do it or don't do it, but this is what we do now.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more like a given. And this is, I think, for me, to not focus so much on this picture needs to look green and sustainable, but it's about the how I do it that sort of benefits the client and me and the earth on the long run. Let's put it like that.
I
And
really, yeah, sorry, you go.
no, I'm done. I have the tendency to talk.
No, sorry for jumping in, because I think it would also help, and I'm just trying to pick up on your thought here, if those kind of climate crisis related negative pictures of the threats, of the problems we have, are more connected to the positive pictures that we have, even if they are a bit limited and green washed or green. Because if they would sit next to each other, you know, if they are connected, if by the same time you see, okay, this is the problem, but this is how it can be solved, then I think it would help, because I think currently we still have two different communication spaces. We have the media, where of course bad news are still the good news, which means there are those big climate crisis related pictures of floods and bushfires and big rainfalls, heat waves and whatsoever. And on the other hand, you have the beautiful corporate world and the business world, where you have like none of this pictures, none of the polluted ocean pictures and plastic wrapping, but you have the green and the nice happy family stuff. We don't have a communication space where this is connected, where this is brought together, and it's okay, this is like the cause, here's the problem, here's how we can solve it. And I think this is something that you just make me think of, which is really interesting. But you just opened the space, and maybe this is where we kind of end this conversation with, and looking again into how can we do things better. And you said, in like speaking to your clients, I'm curious, what are the things that you do where you say, okay, I'm a sustainable photographer? What are the things that they really appreciate? Like, what do they really like? And what are the things that they go like, oh, whatever. Or maybe don't really kind of get or don't really like?
Now I would have to speak for my clients. I don't know.
You know how they react though.
Okay, I just give it a try. Well, I think they appreciate the outcomes of my work, and that I put my heart into it, in how I do it, and I try to find the best visual solutions, and for them, for what they want to communicate or what they need, be it just product photography, and there you can find like the right background, be it a fabric or just paper, or just discuss about the colors and try to find exactly the solution what they need, and that I actually care about how they do things also, and that I can help them to maybe rethink things. And for other clients, I know that they appreciate how I like to think about what is seen, and that I sort of am aware of the power you have over your own representation in your picture, that this is something that you can shape, and this is something that sort of might help to sort of get your own message out, to shape your own, like what you want to say. And I think this is something that they appreciate right now the most. And also if there are sort of overlapping values, like if they have a sustainable product, of course it's relevant to them that I also care about these things and these issues. But I haven't been hired just because there is a sustainable beneath my alias. Just rather the opposite. This is opening up a communication about, but why are you planting a tree? But why are you sustainable? How are you sustainable? What does this mean? So this actually opens up a space for communication on a verbal level that I find very interesting, because I feel like even though one says that one image says more than 1,000 words, it's not true. They don't always. They sometimes just say banana.
Mhm.
So,
But yeah, I love that you said it's about they care about that you care. So
mhm,
they like that you care about them. And what I really like, because this is something we talked about in many of these webinars, and somehow we always get back to that. Some of them, like I can see one guest in the room that probably knows that, because we always get back to the point. It is about the communication and the conversations you have, and you open up by
yeah.
saying that, hey, I'm a sustainable photographer. It's about that people get interested in that. They ask you, okay, what does it mean? Oh,
Mhm,
that's interesting. And what happens is that you open up, as you said, a communication space where a common sense around what sustainability means is suddenly created. So you
mhm,
negotiate, you talk about, you bring in your perspective, they might bring in their perspective, and then you end up working together based on your common understanding around what sustainable photography means.
mhm,
And this is something which I think is amazing. That's such
mhm,
a good example for this, the importance of these negotiations and the communication about what do we actually mean. And that's nothing that is
yeah.
preset or predetermined or predefined, but it is something that needs to be negotiated in those situations with you as a professional, with your clients, and in other situations as well. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Cool.
Because I feel that is something that needs to be verbally approached and not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the thing about photography, is that you see only what you see in the image, but you don't see the behind. You see the what, but you don't see the how or the why.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something that was actually important to me to address, that it's not only about the what, but also about the how and the why. And I know that there are photographers that tackle those questions in their work. Like there is one artist that, for instance, um, creates analog photographies out of their own surroundings. Like he did his own photo paper, his own solutions. He developed the images in a lake bed that has special bacteria, and then it's its own thing. And this is also something that I really like. But it's so, for me, I couldn't do that in a way, because I have to care a little bit differently in my life, because I'm not alone, and I have a different way of approaching things. But I love these ways of visualizing
Mm-hmm.
options or possibilities. This is great, and this is touching. This is deeply touching, and it also, out of itself,
Mm-hmm.
creates this dialogue, and this is beautiful. And I just have like, yeah, why do you do this? And I'm like, I do it because of that. So I do it a little bit differently, but if I get people to think about it a little bit, I'm happy to. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I would love to open the space for maybe one question or two, because we're slightly longer than we usually try to conceptualize this, but this is amazing. I was really interested. I really appreciate that. No, I'm constantly talking and thinking, and I love that. I'm like really into this, so very happy. Is there any question in the room, and any questions that you would like to ask Theresa?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Francis.
Hi.
Theresa.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. I lost 21st minutes of the session, so I hope my question is not repetitive. If it's, just skip it. If it is, what are your audience? Okay, and by audience, I don't mean your clients. Okay, your final, ultimate audience. I'm sure when you started, you had expectations. Okay, so we're talking about the public. who were these public when you started in your expectations, and how did it evolve and change? What kind of people with what characteristics follow your work and appreciate it?
Oh, wow. That's also so many big questions today. My audience, not my clients. Well, the thing is, as I'm working as a commercial photographer, mostly, my audience are also my clients in a way. But my bigger audience in the end are their clients or their audience. So it sort of shifts away then again. It's not only me and the relationship that I have with my clients, but also what their clients see or their audience. It's like a ripple effect in a way, which is beautiful now that I come thinking. Thank you. There are like very, very diverse audiences I'm catering to. Like, for instance, as an interior photographer, I work with architects. So their audiences are other architects or other people who want to build buildings or offices and so forth. For product photography, I like my most important client is how do you say it? Like online farmers market, where I'm taking pictures of carrots and and apples and just like their products, which is fantastic because it's beautiful to work with like these kinds of goods. So my audience is their audience, like people who buy the products. But usually they don't you don't see a product on a screen and then think, oh, who took that picture of that carrot? So, this is not something that I consider that, like, it's nice if somebody cares, but I don't expect people to really say like, oh, that's a great carrot. So, and then portrait photography, it's also the audience of my subjects, basically. So this also broadens out depending on who sits in front of me, which is lovely because there are so many people, and then you have this mouth-to-mouth propaganda, and this is, yeah. And as this is something that's sort of growing usually with the peoples and the connections you have, of course I love to cater to people I know from my NGO context or from my artistic context, and that sort of, then you again have this ripple effect that sort of spreads out a bit.
Yeah,
does that answer your question?
Let me evolve that and tell you why I asked this question. I think it's a kind of B2B sustainability for photography. Your ultimate audience is your clients' customers. Okay, so what I'm thinking about is that, are we taking these photographs for those who are already fans and advocates of sustainability, or are we making them for people to make them aware of sustainability? Okay. Because these two are a bit different. If we're just selling to those who, your clients, if they're selling to those who know sustainability, they just want to disclose their sustainability. The company wants to gain credit for being sustainable. But when we are doing this for the sake of sustainability, we are awareing those who do not know that such thing exists. And in the first one, I think our hands are not that twisted. If a person knows sustainability, they know it, and they will understand it as soon as they see the symbol, the photo, the concept, anything. But for those who don't know that, I think the bar is really high.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. And can I add a very tiny little question, and then we might wrap up pretty soon. Do your clients share their understanding and maybe the expectations of their customers, their end users with you? So do they give you information about, for example, how Nilufer said, like how sustainability aware they are, or how keen, like what they know? Do you get any information about your clients' audiences, or do you actually serve the client's interest and say, or is it that they say, okay, this is like how we want this carrot to be presented? Or do they give you some information about, okay, this is for, I don't know, a specific audience characterized by this, and they might be in a kind of high sustainable aware slot?
Well, it's so-so. There are clients with whom I talk about their audiences and how to best reach them. But usually then the discussion does not so much go into a sustainable way, because photography is the means to do something or to communicate something. And how I do things or photography is not necessarily implied or needs to be implied in what my customers want to communicate. So it's more about sharing values with my direct clients than with their audience. They decide if this is something that they want to communicate, like, hey, and we did this in a sustainable way even, and but usually they don't, because they want the pictures and what they want to communicate, and then sort of live off of the good moment of production. It's more a B2B situation. But sometimes if we're creating pictures for a third party that needs to specifically address, and where sustainability is an issue, this is something that sort of needs to lie within the image, because the how of the image is not being seen. So does this answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I would like to wrap up the discussion with a massive thank you to you, Theresa, and
thank you so much,
everyone else, for being here. It's been, again, amazing to just open so many new doors and try to further think about these, not only the visual aspects of sustainability, but also beyond that, how important it is that you, as a photographer, position yourself as a sustainable photographer, because this is on the other side, on the side of your client, something that is part of their CSR and now ESG engagement, to say, okay, we do, it's not just about our products and our clients, but it's about the suppliers, our B2B relationships, and how responsible they are and how sustainable they are. So they pick you specifically. So thank you so much for, again.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thanks everyone else for being here.
Yeah, thanks for your questions. It was really interesting because it made me think too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Franziska.
Thank you, Franziska.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.